Have you been to the fair yet?
No, I was gonna go yesterday, but I got back from the Vikings game and I was tired, so I
Are
didn't.
are you a fair guy at all?
I don't know. I didn't. I never went to South Dakota State Fair. Never went to Valley Fair before. I don't really know if I am or not.
Have you been to the Minnesota State Fair?
No,
Oh, really?
no.
Oh, that's pretty funny. If you go, you have to do the fried candy bars. That's where it's at.
Fried candy bars. That sounds
It's unreal.
interesting.
I'm telling you, it's unreal. It's worth it.
Okay.
All right, do you want to start the show now?
Yeah, sure. Whatever. It's fine. We'll do it.
Hey, welcome to the Unbelievable Podcast. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald, and today we're going to be talking about the Vikings preseason W over the Cardinals. Wasn't the prettiest game in the world, but there was some things that we can take away, some positives that we can take away, and of course we'll harp on the negatives as well as we always do. We'll also talk about the Twins, who they didn't get a sweep of the Tigers, I guess, but I can settle for 2 out of 3 given how they were playing earlier this week. We'll talk a little bit about that and where they are heading next, and then we'll finish up with our NFL bold predictions. So that's the game plan for today. So let me quick read off this ad for you guys, and then we will start the show. Now I gotta find the ad. God, I hate this. I should have done this before. Just talk for a second while I find this ad.
Want me to talk? Okay.
What did you do
Let's
this
see.
weekend?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I bet on golf. I bet on Kepka, and it looked good for a long time, but he lost. But I will say that my DraftKings lineup won me $137. So
There you go.
could be better, could be worse. It is what it is. I'm just filling space here until you find that ad. So
Yeah, I found it.
nobody really cares about my golf betting anyway.
All right, here's the ad. SoCom Creative, are you ready to call an audible for your advertising? It's 2019. If you're not advertising your business on Facebook or Instagram, you're losing. Period. End of story. Winning Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns are well targeted. It's hard to sell a lawn care product to people who don't own lawns. Scroll stopping, kind of like stopping the run early in the game. If you want to get your customers' attention on Facebook or Instagram, you've got to find a way to stop the scroll. Lastly, they make money. Winning campaigns aren't just about likes and shares. It's all about the dollars that they put in your pocket. If you're ready to kick ass with your social media ads, check out our friends over at SoCom Creative. All they do is come up with ways to help you explode your business on social media and bring you new customers. All right, folks, so let's talk about this Vikings game. Your instant thoughts about kind of the reaction to the Vikings 20-9 W over
Yes.
the Cardinals.
There was literally one good play from the first team offense. Literally only one, right?
Yeah. That's all I remember too.
Remember the Dalvin run, sweet, which was great. Like clearly,
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook is still a stud. But man, Kirk's. I mean, the numbers are box score numbers. I don't like just judging off of that, but 3 of 13, 35 yards.
It's hard to when there's only 3 completions. It's hard to judge.
Now, I
more
will
than just the
say,
box score.
I think there was probably 3 or 4 of those balls that could have been caught or hit the receiver's hands or were catchable, and receivers didn't come up with them. Big, again, emphasizing the need at wide receiver 3 right now, or lack thereof. I guess their lack of a wide receiver 3 right now. But it was ugly. It was really ugly. Couldn't get a thing going whatsoever. The Vikings didn't generate any offense at all until Kyle Sloter came in the game in the fourth quarter.
And that's the truth. So Cousins obviously had a subpar outing. You really honestly this is one of the few times you'll hear me say this, but the box score actually justifies Kirk Cousins' performance.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It
It does sum up how it was, and it wasn't just. I mean, Kirk was very subpar, and he admitted it and said it in pressers and whatever.
Yeah.
But there was no protection, and when there was, his throws were either wayward or he was throwing them. He made the receptions for the receivers tough. Like the receivers could have made the catches and made the plays, kind of saved him a little bit, but it was just everybody was out of sync.
He threw a couple hospital passes too that weren't great.
Yeah, he did. Zylstrike, I think, was on the receiving end of one of those.
Yeah, over the middle. Yeah, that wasn't great. I think the biggest takeaway from Kirk's performance was probably that missed throw to Stephon Diggs downfield early in the game.
Yeah.
That was probably the most that was
clean pocket too.
Yeah,
that was.
It was disappointing that he missed the throw, but it was nice to see him attempt that throw. That was one of my main takeaways from the game, was just the fact that they were willing to throw Diggs deep, which I think we've talked about a couple times on the show already, and we've only had a couple episodes here about just the fact that the Vikings never seem to target Diggs downfield. So obviously, not a completion.
Do it more. Just do it more.
Yeah.
I mean, more in that game. It should be. I don't know. They should take 5 or 6 deep shots to Diggs or Thielen per half. Like just take. I mean, there's the very worst that's going to happen in most cases is an incomplete pass, or at the very a deep 50-yard punt.
Especially with the change in the rules too, with pass interference and whatnot. Like, it's so much easier to get those calls now than it ever has been. Just taking that shot and gambling that you're either going to get a pass interference call or a completion. Unless you severely underthrow the ball or throw a really poor pass. I mean, interceptions on deep balls are not all that common, unless you're allowing the defense to have the ability to turn around on a deep ball, which generally means that you floated it or you didn't throw the ball well at all. But if you give like a legitimate attempt to either Thielen or Diggs, you have to feel confident that one of them's going to come down with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, that's, I guess, a positive if we want to spin it that way. But again, outside of the Dalvin run, the first team offense was abysmal. And
let's talk about that Dalvin run a little bit before we talk about how poor the offense was as a whole, because I do think that one run does you take away that run and this game looks really bad overall. But because you do have that run, I think that for one, that's all I needed to see from Dalvin Cook for the entire preseason, was exactly what he gave us on that carry. You know what I mean? We saw, if you slow down that video even a millisecond, you can see him go from level to level, making the right decision at each level, and ultimately the speed was pretty incredible. I think so. You look at the run itself, and you kind of the difference from last year's running scheme. You're seeing the zone blocking scheme, obviously, which is, we talked about on a couple shows ago, where it's going to open more holes and it's up to the running back to find them. So that's a difference that we're going to see from Cook, where we've always known that he has great vision as a runner. That goes all the way back to Florida State. He's always been a guy that a one-cut runner that can find the hole and be gone. And he's going to have the opportunity to do that this year, and to see him do that on the second carry in this offense, where it counts for something. I guess it counts for points. I don't know. It's whatever. They're trying to tackle you. He has the vision to find the right hole. He has the ability to cut back, which is nice to see on that knee, of course. We don't really think about the ACL so much anymore because we're a year removed from it, but it's still nice to be able to see that that knee is as strong, if not maybe even stronger. I don't really understand the anatomy there, but it always seems like guys who do come back from ACL surgery at a young age seem to come back stronger, at least for some period of time. Maybe that's just the Adrian Peterson effect in my brain. Maybe it's not. Whatever.
Probably is.
It might be, but it seems like that recently the shift from guys coming back from ACL injuries tend to come back stronger. Achilles injuries tend to be the killer, where ACLs, for whatever reason, I don't know, guys have been able to bounce back better. But my point being here, so you see the vision to find the hole. You see the cut to the ability to get to that hole, and then the broken tackles was pretty nice. When you slow down that video, part of me was like, why don't you bounce that further to the outside instead of splitting the two defenders that came up? And maybe that might have been the right decision, but the outcome was ultimately the same. It's nice to see that Cook kind of runs low enough to the ground where he has the balance to split those two defenders and shake off those two tackles. And then you can, what was really cool about this run in particular is that you could literally see the shift in gear from Cook.
It was stupid. It's stupid and it's unfair.
As soon as he kind of took that one step that broke free from the two Cardinals that were trying to tackle him at the second level, I believe at the linebacker level, maybe safeties, you know what I'm talking about. At the second level of the defense, he kind of high steps a little bit to get off of it, and then it's just like, and it's like a second gear that you don't see from, or honestly, it's like a fourth gear that you just don't see from a lot of players. And to see Cook really break away in like, he was 20 or 30 yards ahead of the next defender before the safety started crossing over and were nearly able to catch up to him, I guess. But that was just a very impressive run, top to bottom, and it's nice to see that the scheme agrees with Dalvin Cook.
And the scheme will also allow for cutback runs, which Dalvin seems to have an affinity for. So
sure.
We saw that a few times last year. And again, he just has the acceleration is just stupid. He goes from 0 to, I guess the saying is 0 to 60, but he's probably about 0 to 20, really, really fast. So, that's, again, the one positive from that game was a very nice positive. It turned into 7 points, and it does seem like his running style with the zone blocking is a very good match.
Yeah.
So that's going well. And again, the analytics behind running the ball and feeding your running back, whatever, it says that you shouldn't as often.
Right.
But, based on this game, feed Dalvin Cook as much as you can,
Yeah, absolutely. The one question there being, how did that run influence the performance of the rest of the game? I know that they talked about it in the press conference after the game that the Zimmer seemed to believe that the team sort of let up after that run, and then maybe that had some sort of influence on the offense, the first team offense not performing well throughout the rest of the first half.
Kind of sort of felt like, well, we did our job with that run.
Right.
Like, here's, the rest of this doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I hope that's what happened, because that would explain the rest of the first team offense. And I guess did they play in the second half or no?
No,
they didn't. Okay, just first half. But yeah, that would explain the rest of the first half then.
Yeah, and I mean the big problem there is that you could kind of see that when the offensive line stopped clicking, that was when everything sort of fell apart. And you tend to think that maybe the offensive line is kind of the root of that issue right there, where it's just like.
And Kirk's always been a guy that if early in the game he's comfortable and there's not a ton of pressure on him, like if the pass rush doesn't getting to him, he's comfortable the rest of the game. But if it gets to him early, he's thinking about the whole game, and from there is when those mistakes start to happen. So early in this game, pass rush was after him, and then even when he did have a clean pocket later on, he didn't feel like it, and it seemed like he was forcing throws when he didn't need to. So that seems like it's kind of been the case, at least was the case last year, and has been in his poor performance games in the past in Washington and in Minnesota. It's early on in the game if he feels the pressure and the pass rush, it kind of takes the effect of the rest of the game, whether it's clean pocket or not.
Yep. Anyone else from the first team offense that stood out to you at all?
In a bad way or a good way, or
either way, just stood out.
I mean, I liked. This is kind of not really a first team. I mean, he kind of played the whole game. But BC Johnson has, to me, solidified a roster spot. I thought, because he got some snaps with the first team, a few and 3 receiver sets, and then obviously he played throughout the whole game. But I think he's definitely in a roster spot, and he should have. I mean, that 2-point conversion at the end there, I think he had both feet in for what it's worth. But he's a big frame. He can clearly do some damage after the catch as well, and he seems like a guy that can go up and get the ball in a one-on-one situations as well. So if there's a guy that you can put outside as an X or a Z in a 3 receiver set where you want to move Thielen and Diggs inside, I think I'd pick him at this point.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out with Johnson was the after the catch, like you mentioned. He clearly has a feel for being able to run the ball in the open field, which is something that I think that it's like a special trait for guys that, especially wide receivers, because a lot of wide receivers, when you catch the ball downfield, like, you just need to catch the ball and then that's it, like, you did your job. It's nice to see a guy that has the ability to do something after the catch, and he has a returner kind of ability, I suppose, when he touched the ball. It feels like the way he was sort of able to shake loose and find holes to get even a few extra yards. We never really think about breaking a tackle and getting 5 extra yards, right? that extra 5 yards just kind of goes by the wayside. But if you think about the difference in that, an extra 5 yards could be the difference between a 38-yard field goal and a 43-yard field goal. Just little things like that. It's nice to see that Johnson has the ability to do that, and it's good to see him actually show up in a game too. Something that he hasn't really done yet in the preseason, but he definitely showed up in a big way when it really counted, when he had the opportunity this weekend. So that's definitely nice to see. Unfortunately, I don't really think that there's anyone else on the offense, first team offense specifically, that can really there's any other real positive takeaways from this group. Kirk didn't play well. Obviously, Cook only had 2 touches, and we covered the only one that really mattered. Tyler Conklin, who was playing a little bit with the first team, had a few drops, and I don't think he looked very good after having a pretty strong preseason overall. Diggs he had a couple catches, but he's basically been shut out this preseason. I don't really think that's necessarily his fault, but that is what the case is on paper. There's just not a whole lot to be happy about, especially given the fact that they had an extended snaps for the first team offense this weekend.
Right. I do think though that this backup quarterback debate,
is it back? Are we
it's
back
kind
on
of
that?
I would say it's back, and I tell you, man, Kyle Sloter, man, he's a gamer now. Whether this carries into the regular season, if that would need to happen, where the Vikings would need a backup quarterback to play for Kirk, who knows if that would carry into the regular season? But the guy he knows how to get it done on the field. And now, I don't know how much you read into tweets from players. But did you see the series of emojis that Kyle Sloter tweeted out? This would have been yesterday?
I don't think I did.
Saturday night?
No, I don't think I did.
He tweeted out a sly grin emoji, and then like a shushing emoji. So like shh, and then like a zippered mouth closed emoji. Those 3 emojis, that's it. Which I don't know what that means, if it means anything.
Do you speak emoji?
People are insinuating that it means he's been promoted to QB2.
That's not what that means.
That's reading into it quite a bit, but who knows? Because hypothetically, if he is promoted to QB2, he would then start against Buffalo this week, I believe.
Yeah.
So
is this are you open to reopening this QB2 situation, especially even after Mike Zimmer basically said that Mannion's going to be the guy?
I mean, yeah, I'm open to a battle, I guess, but it's like, I don't know. I've always it's been closed to me because I've just thought they've preferred Mannion, and that's kind of been the story. And I never really thought more about it. But man, the guy's a gamer. Who knows about the practice and the game planning skills? We talked about that before. But I thought it was funny, Zimmer's comment where he said something about, he made sure to say every time he goes in the game he does well, not referring to his off-field performance, with practice and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm sure Mannion's still the guy at QB2, and Sloter's roster, and maybe it means his roster spot is safe. Maybe it means that they're guaranteeing him QB3 and like a spot on the roster. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because we're all going to be paying attention to Week 4 of the preseason, pretty much for this Sloter Mannion battle that we have going here.
Paying attention to the who starts at quarterback, and then after that it'll be about other position battles and guys, fringe roster guys.
Right. How about the first team defense? Obviously, the Vikings only allowed 9 points.
Bend but don't break. That was a common theme last year. So I believe now the Vikings first team defense did not allow a touchdown all of preseason, which, I mean, that's like not a full game even of performance, but it's worth noting that they didn't allow a touchdown, allowed several field goals, but bend but don't break. A lot of easy yardage between the 20s. Xavier Rhodes got burned by a person I'd never heard of twice. That was not cool. But
Yeah, Darius Bird. Or
yeah.
Demir Bird, excuse me.
So
yeah, that was unsettling. And then you saw Trey Waynes got beaten too by a guy that he shouldn't have gotten beaten by. That happened a couple of different times.
Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah, right. Murray overall looked pretty good out there, though. I will say that he
looks like a veteran already.
He looks like he belongs for sure, and that kind of makes it like I want.
Also, like, you should have had a defensive touchdown on that fumble.
J-Ron Curse once again.
The David Johnson fumble that clearly was a fumble, and I still don't know how they inexplicably did not overturn that call. But
what's the point of having the technology to review that kind of thing?
I don't know if they showed this on the Fox broadcast, but in the stadium they showed an angle right away, like before the refs even started reviewing. They showed an angle from the end zone side, looking at David Johnson's gut, and the ball was clearly out before he even started to go down to the ground. And then as they were then showing the feed that the refs were getting, and they didn't show that angle one time. And so I think that's what happened, was the refs just didn't get the angle. But clearly before they went under the hood, there was like, to your point, if you have the angle, you have the camera view, why not use it? If you have the technology for that stuff, that's the entire reason they even allow reviews in the first place, is that people can clearly see these mistakes.
Right.
But
I guess it's the preseason for the refs too.
Preseason for technology.
Yep.
I guess. I don't know.
Right. Anyone else on the defensive side of the first team that looked good to you? I mean, I thought that
you're on Kurtz. I think you tweeted that he's having the best preseason of any Viking on defense. Well, and maybe on both sides. And I think I agree with you, because the guy's everywhere.
Mackenzie Alexander actually looked pretty good as well too.
Yeah. Guys start to read screens really well. Was that Antoine Winfield did that really well too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would pick apart a screen like that, and Mackenzie Alexander seems to be following in those footsteps.
He's tackling better too. I mean, coming in as a rookie, tackling was one thing that definitely was not part of his skill set, and now he's seemingly doing that a little bit better now. I guess the Zimmer influence on him is starting to take effect. So it's definitely, I guess, I thought Anthony Barr also had a pretty nice game as well. You could put there are a couple guys on defense that looked pretty solid overall. No sacks from the first team. I thought the pressure was pretty solid on Murray, and I think that he actually did a pretty good job escaping some bad situations. And he threw a couple balls that there wasn't much he could do.
Less maneuverable quarterback would have been sacked a few times.
Yeah,
extra in that game. I think moving to like second, third string guys, I think Afadi was almost unblockable in that game. Yeah. He was a force for Hundley to deal with the entire second half, I thought.
He's looking like a guy that is going to not just be like a backup defensive end, but be a part of the rotation. Maybe seeing anywhere between like 8 and 15 snaps a week, something like that. And I'm comfortable with that too. He's grown a lot as a player. He's shown significant progress as a speed rusher specifically, and having that ability to shake tackles too. I think he's picking up on some Everson Griffin traits. It doesn't hurt to also have Danielle Hunter in that room as well. He's definitely grown a lot, and I think that we've seen that quite a bit in this preseason so far. I think he will be a guy. He'll have a similar impact, I think, to the way that Stephen Weatherly has impacted the game in the past, where you kind of you're coming in as a guy that's getting a relatively small amount of snaps every week, but contributing quality snaps. Getting pressures and making the offensive tackle work. He's not just a throwaway guy.
I mean, when you're fresh like that, and you should be able to get that pressure, or at least having them mix up with guys that are maybe more fatigued, like Hunter and Griffin, but then coming in fresh should A, relieve those top two guys, but B, if you're able to get that pressure, it's only that much of a benefit, because these tackles now don't know what to prepare for. They're gonna getting their set a little bit differently for each guy. So again, you see these teams that run deep into the playoffs and they bring in 4 or 5 different guys off the edge on different plays. If the Vikings can do that, that's obviously going to be a huge benefit for that defense.
Absolutely. The second string defensive backs. Anyone stand up to you at corner? We're running into a bit of an issue here. Unfortunately, like we come into this year thinking we have cornerback depth.
We don't. Vikings don't.
I know it's crazy because Rhodes and Waynes played probably subpar across the board. Mackenzie
was it
Alexander
Boyd that was getting
Boyd did
really,
not have
really destroyed? Yeah. I think that's right.
He wasn't good out there. Marcus Epps was meh as well.
Because how many throws I felt like Huntley missed a bunch of throws too that were wide open.
Yeah.
Like there were coverage busts all over the place, and he just missed a lot of opportunities for points or big gains that Vikings kind of just either miscommunication or really bad performance in man-on-man coverage. I don't know what it was, but there's a couple deep ones, especially over the middle there. There's just nobody there.
Yeah, there's the motto or the moral of this story for the Vikings second string secondary is don't get hurt, because I do not trust Chris Boyd or Duke Thomas, and it seems like those are the two guys right now that'll probably be getting the roster spots for Holton Hill while he's suspended. And
Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs don't get hurt because their wide receiver depth isn't great either.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. It's a tough situation. Did we see Treadwell at all, by the way, during this game?
He did play he didn't. He had one targeted once, according to this box.
I didn't even notice him. It's like he's not even on the team anymore.
Yeah, he's gone. He has to be. He's only playing with third-team guys.
Yeah.
He has to be gone.
Yeah. He's it's definitely not looking good for him. Over to the second string on the offensive side of the football, second and third string guys. I guess
Mike Boone.
Yeah, Mike Boone is really the main piece that stood out for sure. Madison did not have a great game. Low yards per carry average. Also fumbled once. Wasn't his best effort. I think Mike Boone is really making an argument. I saw this on Twitter, by the way. How random Twitters, they don't from other teams when they're they're searching the pile for players that they might be able to pick up at after cuts. And so after Lamar Miller got cut in Houston, there are people in Houston that are looking at Mike Boone as a potential replacement to be a guy that gets first string reps alongside Duke Johnson in Houston. I saw that floating around on Twitter. So his name is popping off a little bit.
People are noticing because
he's having a great preseason.
In my opinion, the blocking from the second string unit has not been great either. I think he's had a grind for the yards that he's earned. So I think he's definitely earned a roster spot on the Vikings. And I'd rather not see him go somewhere else because Amir Abdullah's been hurt and they want him as a return specialist or something like that.
I think Abdullah's gone. He hasn't, because Mike Boone also had the special teams tackle too. That was to me, that was sort of what pushed him over the top. I think at this point with Mike Boone, we have to start arguing whether he's RB2 or RB3, and not just a roster spot guy. I think he's a guy that's on the roster. It's just a matter of will he get touches in the regular season or not to relieve Dalvin Cook. Because this guy, it seems like every game he has a touch for over 20 yards.
Yeah, Slaughter and Boone are kind of your preseason superstars.
Yeah,
they bring it.
They really do
on the field for sure.
Yeah, so Mike Boone finishes with 10 carries for 41 yards. Comparatively, D'Angelo Henderson got his first extended action. He had 10 carries for 36 yards. Not as much explosiveness out of Henderson, just more kind of running down the clock. And Madison 6 for 18 with that fumble. Not his best performance. Obviously, it's good to get those yips out during the preseason. But he didn't really add more to his resume this week, I don't think. And then you've got Abdullah, who touched the ball once for 7 yards, and then one catch for 5 yards. So Abdullah not doing much during the preseason. I think it's over. It's a wrap for Mike Boone. I think Abdullah could pretty much clear out his locker at this point because I don't see a spot for him on this team. Especially, too, Kari Blasingame or Kari Blasingame, however you pronounce his name.
He looks like a dual threat fullback.
Dude, he can run. He can really, really move. when he gets the ball in his hand. Like he doesn't. I don't know why he's the fullback. He has so much more. I mean, is he a good blocker? Like, is that why he's listed as a fullback? Because I don't know what the deal is. Because he catches the ball better than a lot of running backs, and he's great after the catch. And every time he touches it, he's explosive.
And he's in the end zone.
He's making this very difficult. Like, how can you justify keeping two fullbacks in a league where most teams don't have one? But
yeah, that's true. That's true.
We might be staring down that situation right now. I mean, he's making this very, very difficult because every time he's on the field and every time he touches the ball, he's doing something with it. And yeah, it's against second.
And even when he's not, like on that Boone 64-yard run against the Saints, like even when he doesn't have the ball, he's doing something.
Yeah, he's definitely another max effort guy that you have to like as someone that can definitely get down the field on special teams as well. I think that there is real justification right now for keeping two fullbacks, especially with the way that this wide receiver depth chart has developed, and some of the other spots as well that you might be able to clip a spot from. Whereas in the past you may have kept one more player from that position group. So it'll be interesting to see what the Vikings decide to do there with him specifically. It's a weird spot the Vikings are in at the fullback spot. Tight end across the board, not a whole lot to write home about there. I mentioned Conklin before. He had one drop that wasn't awesome. He also had a nice catch too on a ball that wasn't thrown extremely well, I suppose.
That was the one where he got cracked right after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was that Mannion or Slover.
I believe it was Mannion.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess I don't think there's a whole lot to take away. That we haven't already spoken about. The second team defense. I tend to think that most of the defensive cuts are going to be fairly expected. I don't foresee any like shocking cuts from the defensive side of the football based on what we've seen. I think most of these guys have sort of solidified their spots.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. It's a lot of it's
guys
might be just a couple of DB decisions to make in terms of depth, but it seems like everything else is solidified.
Yeah.
So.
Guys like Jalen Holmes and Jaleel Johnson, who were kind of taking heat coming into the preseason, have definitely shown that that they deserve to be in that backup spot over the other guys that the Vikings have. Overall, I mean, as the preseason begins to wind down, what are you feeling more confident about this Vikings team or less confident?
No. Oh, of course. No. I if you're not running through the Arizona Cardinals. And it doesn't matter if it's a half or quarter, whatever.
Yep.
If you're not playing better than them, and again, I was optimistic about the Cardinals. Like I said, I think second best in the NFC West.
Yeah.
Was my bold prediction. But I mean, this team is still a rebuilding team, bunch of young guys that don't have a lot of experience. The Vikings are clearly an experienced team in most of their spots, guys that have played in an NFC Championship game in recent years. You got to run through this team, and they didn't. And if it wasn't for their kind of red zone defense, I'll say, because the red zone defense for the Vikings has been very good, I'll say that. This is for 2018, 2017, really since Zimmer took over. Mm-hmm. But teams are getting easy yards between the 20s on this team defensively, and then obviously the offense under Kirk was abysmal.
Right. I think there's one more thing that we have to mention before we talk about special teams. Devontae Downs, I forgot to mention him. He's a guy that really hasn't caught my eye at all, basically since he's been a Viking. This is the first flash of rosterable performance, I suppose. He had a sack. He had 5 tackles. He looked good there. Looked good out there on second and third team. I thought that he made the most out of his snaps. He's with the way that the Vikings linebacker depth chart is shaking out. I know I said that I thought that it was pretty much a lock, but if you look at the linebacker spot, particularly the second team guys, Barr, Kendricks, and Gideon are in your 4-3 alignment are going to be your starters. But you've got Downs brothers, Eric Wilson, and then also Cameron Smith, the rookie too, and then Rashard Clyde, who I know that there are people out there who like Clyde. I'm not one of them, but there is some if you're only going to keep 6 linebackers or possibly even four or five, which we've seen teams do in the past, there's a real Eric Wilson's job is safe because of what he's been able to do as a spot starter with Anthony Barr out in the past. But I think there's a real argument for this being, the last week of Kentrell Brothers next week if Downs continues to play well.
Probably.
And you can say the same thing about Cameron Smith as well, given that he's a rookie and he's going to be a good special teams guy. There's a chance that we might be seeing the end of Brothers. He didn't show up
Seems like
at
the
all.
odd man out there.
He really does. So I think that wraps up the offensive defensive side of the football. I wanted to leave a nice portion of time to talk about special teams because is just
great.
This has gotten to the point for me where I just don't know. Like there's no explanation for the kicking situation for the Vikings.
Vedvik goes perfect for Baltimore. And did he play 1 or 2 games preseason?
Yeah, and he was there last year too.
And I mean, he looked dynamite, right? You up a 5th-round pick for him. This is his first place kicking opportunity because I think he was just mainly punting last week against Seattle. Comes in this week and 0 for 2.
Yeah.
On field goal attempts, I believe.
Yeah. No, he was exactly 0 for 2. The one we are able to give him a bit of a pass on, I believe the one was from 54 yards.
Yeah.
So obviously you'd like to see your kicker make those kicks, and for what it's worth, he did have the distance on it. So there is that.
I hope so. The guy can kill the ball.
Yeah. But he missed that one, and then the one that really hurt was the one from, I believe it was for 46. That one was not a.
Yeah. It's just I'm confused now because Dan Bailey didn't leave the sideline all game. He was standing in the same exact. I was actually looking at this. Like this isn't. I'm not making this up. He was in the exact same spot the whole game. Had the baseball cap on.
Yeah.
Kind of arms crossed, standing in the same spot the entire time. While Vedvik, practices kicks while practicing punting, and then Cutting was doing the long snapping. Mm-hmm. Dan Bailey didn't leave that spot. I don't know if this was just a tryout for Vedvik. I don't know. But based on that, Dan Bailey's gone. I don't know if there's going to be any other tryout or experiment in the 4th game, but it was weird to see that.
It's weird. It's a very weird spot to be in overall because Matt Weil, who is also oddly factors into this. I mean, how many times do you see a situation like that? I've never seen anything like this.
No, it's weird because, I mean, if you invest a 5th-round pick in a guy, you sort of by default have to give him like a fair, extended trial, right?
Right.
Like,
you got to find a way. I mean, Matt Weil punted just fine. He had 2 inside the 20 and a 55-yard long, according to the box score. I thought that he looked good out there. And that was because Vedvik missed both of these field goals. I mean, that's all he has to hang his hat on right now. And I thought Weil actually punted better this week than Vedvik did last week. So right now, Vedvik is he's the guy who's playing the worst in the games. I mean, he might be practicing better than Bailey, but he's playing worse. Which brings up this whole discussion of what matters more. If you're playing well in games, who cares if you're playing poorly in practice? I mean, I don't mean to go Allen Iverson on you here, but this is what it's like. If a guy sucks at practice but is good in the games, I'll take that every time. I understand from a coaching perspective that it's frustrating, but give me the guy who comes out on Sunday ready to go over the guy who Monday through Friday is a film nut and doing everything right.
It's sort of how you feel about Tim Tebow when he played for the Broncos, right? Because I'm sure, in practice he just looked awful. He probably did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had to have. But that in that 2011 season, for some reason, he just they won games, and part of it was the defense that they had. Whatever they won a bunch of games on 50-some yard kicks from Prater as well. But the guy knew how to win. And as you see some of that from Sloter, and then you see Vedvik come in the game and miss kicks. There's another element of it's not, you can't characterize it, you can't put it into words. It's just something there that guys have or guys don't. And
There's something about Minnesota at this point, though. Like it's a distinct trend. You look back at the last
in particular.
Yeah, since Gary Anderson's miss. Just look at the Vikings kicking situation. I mean, Longwell was the most consistent, but he was not good from.
Well, he didn't even get a chance to send the Vikings to the Super Bowl against the Saints because of a 12-man and the huddle penalty.
Yeah.
So that kind of, if you think of it that way, it's also kind of part of the curse.
Yeah. Every guy that has came in here has eventually folded. I mean, Blair Walsh had one of the best kicking seasons of all time. And
that's legitimate. That's correct.
12 out of 12 from 50 plus, or 10 out of 10 from 50 plus. I mean, and then he just fell apart completely. By the way, he just signed with Atlanta, so we might see him week 1, which could be hilarious.
Vikings' first 2 kicking opponents at US Bank Stadium in the regular season is week 1. You get Blair Walsh, probably. Week 3, you get Daniel Carlson.
Yeah, and watch, they'll hit all of their field goals too. I don't know what to do. So what do you do with this in this situation here? If we
goes back to your take on Zimmer and staying away from the coaches or staying away from the kickers. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
The media needs to just stop asking about the kicking situation because every time Zimmer talks about it, it never comes out well. Like it just always. Yeah,
the media is like, technically they're not. That's what they're supposed to do is get the soundbite from Zimmer.
Of course.
And if he's pissed off, people.
But he's always going to give it to him. I just want him to shut his mouth about the kicking situation so bad, because if I'm just glad this is the end of week 3 of the preseason, not week 4, because if you're heading into, with all the information that you've collected on Vedvik, and then Weil and Bailey. I think that Vedvik's he's the odd man out, but he's also the guy that you paid
the 5th pick for.
The draft currency for.
It's interesting.
I cannot imagine Rick Spielman would be okay with being like, yeah, go ahead and cut him after we just handed out, a 5th rounder, which is,
I still think Weil's gone. I still do, based on just because of the 5th round pick in Vedvik's punting.
That's the best explanation for it right now because Bailey's clearly better than Vedvik. I mean, on paper, since he's been here, that's how it's been. And I think that a lot of people agree that Zimmer seems to like Bailey more than Vedvik as well to this point, which leaves Weil as the guy on the chopping block just because he's the least valuable. You didn't trade a draft pick for him. He doesn't have a significant salary. He doesn't have great history in the league. He has, he's not an elite punter by any means, and you can't justify keeping 3 guys in that situation. You can't keep 2 kickers and a punter. Like it's not going to happen. You got to keep 1 kicker, 1 punter. Otherwise, you're you could lose Sloter, for example, or you could lose, Kenchel brothers, Mike Boone. Yeah, any of these guys. Any of these guys on the fringe. Like that's what it would take. In order to keep Vedvik or Weil at this point, or Bailey, I guess I don't honestly, dude. I don't know how to look at this situation.
Nobody knows. I mean, here's the thing: it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the kicker's going to suck anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm with you on that. Like, I think that's just kind of like we just have to accept this that maybe going for 2 at some point.
Going for 2 all the time, just do it.
Going for 2 all the time.
Only kick field goals unless you have more than 4 yards to go or something.
If it's 4th and if it's 4th down and 5 yards or less, and you're in field goal territory, I'm going for it every time this year.
I'm with you.
I'm running slants and just betting on
mesh over the middle. Find a drag route for Diggs with Thielen and have him dive forward.
Exactly. Yeah, or just give the ball to Blasingame because it'll end up at 1st down then.
Or Sloter, just have him come in for 4th down.
All right. So I think that wraps up our discussion about the Vikings for this episode. Let's talk a little bit about the Twins here. The last time we spoke about the Twins, I was very unhappy with their performance against the White Sox. I said on the last show that I wanted to see a sweep of the Detroit Tigers, and of course, just to spite me, the Twins came out and lost Game 1 of that of the Detroit series. They have since rebounded with 2 back-to-back Ws. The Royals did their part today as well and beat Cleveland in extra innings after blowing a lead of their own. So the Twins are back up to 3.5 games in the AL Central. For me, three games is kind of that sweet spot of comfort for me. When the Twins have a 3-game lead in the Central, I just feel naturally more stable about the situation. Whereas like 2 feels like it's dwindling, 1 feels like one wrong move and all of a sudden it's tied. 3 kind of just makes me feel better, and especially with that .5 at the end too. That just one extra game that this helps. So
I wanted to Miguel Sano is on a tear, we know.
Right.
This is a stat from Aaron Gleeman I saw on Twitter. This is after Saturday. Well, this is actually tweeted Sunday morning, but it's after Saturday's game. Mm-hmm. So he's played 48 games since breaking out of his brutal 2-week slump in June. That was kind of like, that was late June, I think.
Yep. That was when he got down to like 207.
Yeah. He's produced the following 162 game pace in the 48 games since then. Mm-hmm. 281 average, 388 OBP, mm-hmm. 635 slugging, 94 homers, 54 homers, sorry. 94 is a lot. 54 homers, 95 walks, 132 RBIs, and 129 runs.
Yeah. That's
like MVP numbers.
That's more than MVP numbers. 130, and then OPS over 1,000. I mean, that's he's definitely crushing it. He's turned it on. We've talked about it a couple times on the show now. Just that. Oh wow, unbelievable play in the Steelers game. I've got that on the background. Sorry.
By the way, the Titans are going to be the subject of my bold prediction here in a few minutes.
Good. But Sano looks just like he looks locked in. Every time the home run that he hit yesterday on Saturday was just an absolute crack. Like when he hits the ball, like it echoes.
It's different. It's just different.
Yeah,
it's different.
So he's definitely locked in. He's playing extremely well. He's a great he's giving good at bats. The one thing I will say about Sano is I still am not comfortable at all with him facing top shelf relief pitchers, guys that are swing and miss type pitchers. The guy that the type of
guys that'll
reliever,
get ahead in the count.
Yeah, the type of reliever who's going to get ahead with the fastball and beat you with a dirt slider. I don't trust Sano against those guys, but hitting against like starters or guys that are expected to go long relievers, excessive amount of innings, not just guys that are basically employed by MLB teams to get 1 or 2 outs. I'm very comfortable with Sano right now because he is able to watch, for his pitch a little bit better than he has been. So he's been on a tear. That's nice to see. It's nice for him to kind of.
It's fun. It's fun.
Especially with all the heat that he's been taking, basically since he hurt his foot. He's going to come back out of shape. Well, he's still in shape, and he's probably playing the best baseball of his entire career right now.
Yeah, he is.
And there's an argument. There have been arguments all over the place for his defense being subpar, and that being a reason to, having to take him out of the lineup. The defense still could use some work, but at least when he gets in front of the ball, he does have a cannon. He throws the ball well across the diamond. He is the type of player right now where you will take subpar defense to keep his bat in the lineup because of how hot he's been.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Absolutely. The other guy that played extremely well over the weekend and is doing his best to not get sent back down to the minor leagues with Buxton seemingly returning is Jake Cave. I have one of my best friends. We make fun of Jake Cave all the time because he just looks like this very standard white human being. Like he doesn't look like he would be like an MLB player. And we just don't like him for literally
kind of like Chad Beebe.
Yeah.
Just looks like a dude.
He looks like a guy you'd see at a grocery store with a girl hung on his arm picking out vegetables. That's what I see when I see Jake Cave, He's been playing great. I think it's 3 home runs over the last 3 or 4 home runs over the last couple of games here, at least against these 2 central opponents. He's been a spark. He's extremely fast too. He plays great defense in the outfield. It's going to be tough with Buxton coming back because you kind of need that extra arm in the bullpen. It's because it's hard to justify not doing that. I saw a stat today that the Twins have had 1 quality start in the last 2 weeks from their starting pitchers. So you need that extra reliever. It's going to be hard to send Jake Cave down, man.
Yeah, yeah. That one quality start in 2 weeks.
I know, it's crazy.
That sounds like a team that's going to make a deep playoff run.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's unreal. Barrios, I think we have to talk a little bit about him. I mean,
Yeah.
he has
Because
just
I
been,
remember right when we started the show, you were saying like, at least you have one ace on this team, and
yeah.
now I don't think at this point you don't.
He has an 8.61 ERA in July, or excuse me, in August.
That is, I'm gonna check my notes on that, but I don't think that's very good.
That's not gonna end well. And Odorizzi just can't get through 6 innings to save his life. I mean, it's getting bad. It's getting bad when Kyle Gibson and Martin Perez, who are also not pitching well either, are kind of your saviors this week. Twins easily, like, they're winning ball games like 8-5, 7-4 in the last 2 games, and that is a complete issue with the starting pitching. They're the only ones that are really allowing the runs. The bullpen has actually been pitching better. I mean, you can't say enough about.
Oh yeah, that's correct.
May and Duffy in particular have been very good. A couple bumps here and there from Dyson and Romo, but overall the bullpen, or excuse me, it hasn't been the bullpen that's been the issue lately. It's been the starters. They've been a real problem. It's a weird situation that the Twins are dealing with, and they're lucky that they have the hitting to support some subpar pitching during this stretch.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? I just can smell something like somehow they get the Yankees in the playoffs, and it's just, yeah. I'm just not confident in the Twins right now. Even that they are 3 games up, I'm just not.
It's hard to be confident in them doing anything in the postseason at this point.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they'll play in the playoffs, which is obviously a big win,
right,
for us, given preseason expectations. But yeah, this isn't a play. This is a team that's going to win in the playoffs. Is, I guess, the point I'm making.
Yeah, the last point I wanted to touch on with the Twins, Jonathan Scope hit a home run today. His 18th of the year. It looks like he's probably going to crack 20. So the Twins will, I believe, have 6 guys over 20 home runs at some point. And it looks like they'll have at least 1 or 2 that'll get to 40, with Kepler and Cruz probably getting there at some point.
Sano has an outside chance.
I agree. If he keeps hitting at this pace, he's going to get to 30 for sure. Twins are going to – that home run spot, we're getting closer and closer to breaking that mark. But with Scope in particular, it's nice to see him playing okay, since he's been kind of had his spot taken by Arise. It's nice to see that he's been able to kind of, because the home run that he hit today was like, you can't hit a ball harder than he hit it. It was just literally on a line right to left field. It's good to see him still playing well despite having a reduced role and sort of taking it in stride.
Yeah.
You always have that. You always wonder how a guy is going to be affected. When they get taken out.
When the guy's hitting 340 or whatever, like Arise is, like you can't really, you can't be like, well, no, I deserve my spot back.
Right, and Scope has been struggling too, so it's good to see him come off the bench, get 4 at bats on Sunday, and hit a big home run. Crone as well, who I can't get a read on him. He's just like, he's a very weird player. He's over 20 home runs as well. He's having a very solid season, but he's just he's not a guy I'm ever very confident in. But you look at his numbers and they look pretty nice, and he fields the ball well at first. So overall, the hitting is still working for the Twins. The pitching, on the other hand, we'll see next week if they can get a shift. If Barrios can kind of set himself, that really he really sets the table for the rest of the starters. The Twins need to get more from him, especially with this big run coming here with the White Sox next at U.S. Cellular Field, and then they'll go play the Indians after that in a big 3-game set. So that's what we got to look forward to. But right now, I'm pretty satisfied with the 3.5-game lead, given how the starters have pitched.
Yeah, 3.5-game lead sounds okay now. We'll see. I mean, the schedule's so freaking easy. They can give up 6 runs, and they should be able to put up 8 or 9, right? Yeah,
3-3 in a 6-game set against the White Sox, and the Tigers won't cut it though. Got to see more from the Twins this next upcoming week.
Yeah, true.
And hopefully things will get a little bit better playing on the road where the Twins have been able to do the most damage this year. For some reason, I never really understand that, but they have. That's just how it is. So let's finish up here with our NFL bold predictions. Why don't you go ahead and tell me about the Titans?
Yeah, so Andrew Luck has retired.
He's retired, yeah. Crazy.
So the AFC South is wide open, which, by the way, I did get a bet on the Titans to win the AFC South at plus 650 before they took it down on a certain site. So that's going to make me some money because the Tennessee Titans are winning 11 games this year.
What? Okay.
They're winning 11 games this year. Here's the thing. The Titans go 9-7 like every year, it seems like. 8-8, 9-7. They're right there on the fringe. And they lose two games every year to Andrew Luck because I think he went like undefeated in his career against the Titans or something stupid. And I like Mariota. This offensive line, it kind of crumbles quite often, but there's a lot of good pieces on defense, and I like the grit this Titans team has. So I like them to win 11 games. I like them to win the AFC South over the Texans.
Even though, I was like I told you before, I'm watching this Steelers-Titans game right now. Tannehill has outperformed Marcus Mariota and might end up stepping in there.
Which maybe that's backup. It's a valuable position to have. Tannehill is a solid backup, but I do like Mariota.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't have a whole lot to say on that. I mean, I've liked the Titans for years. I will say that when they started the rebuilding process, we'll say with Mariota, I have been saying that I thought that they would turn it up and be a team to beat a couple years down the road because they have rebuilt in a really solid way. They just haven't gotten much from their draft picks. I mean, Taywan Taylor, who I liked coming out, the wide receiver, he hasn't done a whole lot. Corey Davis has been mostly a disappointment. Part of that is on Mariota for what it's worth.
Yeah, the passing game has been, aggregate numbers, it doesn't put up a whole lot. That's their mindset is the Mike Zimmer offensive mindset, where
for sure,
ground and pound Derrick Henry. Yeah, and because last year they destroyed the Patriots last year. The Titans did.
Yeah.
They won against the Eagles and Patriots back-to-back weeks, and I was like, oh, wow, all right, Tennessee Titans here they are.
They have an interesting team, man. I mean, that defense could also be very good too. They have the most underrated player. They have Kevin Byard or Baird or however you want to say his last name. He's basically become Harrison Smith, where like nobody knows who he is. He's paid obviously like a premier safety, but no one apparently knows who he is. But he's one of the best in the league now. They've got a very good secondary. If Malcolm Butler can figure out the guy he was when he was with the Patriots again, he's extremely good. Kenny Vaccaro, who has been sort of down since he left the Saints, but he's got talent. Adoree Jackson is one of the most naturally athletic and talented human beings you'll ever come across in your life. And then, honestly, dude, the Titans just are filled with like a lot of guys that are just like criminally underrated. You can say the same thing for Jarrell Casey as well, their defensive tackle, who always is in the backfield, and then Cameron Wake, who comes over from Miami.
That's right. I got him too.
I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but he's an interesting player. And the left side of their offensive line, I know Roger Saffold hasn't had the greatest preseason in the world, and Taylor Lewan is going to be out for the first 4 games. But you have to like the ability to run the ball behind those 2 big guys, and then you got Conklin on the right side. So, I mean, this is definitely a team that could do some damage with Andrew Luck gone. By the way, that's just extremely weird that he's just like, I'm still kind of fazed by that. Like, I get it. I get the reasoning, but like that came out of absolutely nowhere. I love that dude.
He's
a special player.
Yeah. Really, I mean, the Colts were a real Super Bowl threat this year, too.
Absolutely.
Because they were like 1-5 last year, and then they almost ran the table after that. That's shaking up a lot of the AFC, and it's going to shake up this division, too.
Yeah. It's weird, man. I mean, people have been saying it's the craziest retirement that we've seen since Barry Sanders or since Patrick Willis, or some people that love the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Calvin Johnson, of course, comes to mind. Jim Brown, Gale Sayers, all those guys. It's crazy. I think this is number one for me. I mean, I didn't see this. I thought that I thought there was a chance that he'd open the season and miss like 2 or 3 games with an injury. I did not think that we had seen the last of Andrew Luck, and maybe we haven't. Maybe he just needs a couple of years to get his head straight and recoup his injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we'll see him again at 32. Where honestly,
maybe he's a Viking in a couple years.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. That would work for me. So. For me, my bold prediction, I don't even know how bold this really is, given kind of the landscape of how we see these two players today. But I've got Juju Smith-Schuster having a better season than Antonio Brown, and I'll quantify that with yards. I'll say that Juju has more yards
that is
than
like
Antonio.
What I also think is going to happen. Well, it's like, I mean, Antonio Brown is Derek Carr throwing to him, and
he's going to see. The only difference is that Antonio Brown is going to for sure get like 120 to 130 targets. You can make the argument now that Juju might too. And Juju's definitely in the better offense.
Right.
So, I mean, but there's still like the standard is that Antonio Brown is arguably the best wide receiver in the game. And James Washington is.
He's got to get on the field first, though.
That's true, but I've got him winning that battle. I don't know how bold that is, but that's my bold prediction this week. You can't take it from me.
It's a prediction, that's for sure.
I mean, I think that Juju's ready to be the guy. I mean, he's shown everything in the preseason. He's one of my favorite personalities in the NFL. One of the most likable people that you'll come across. Like, I think Juju is the type of guy where like people just hate him because he's so happy, which is so hilarious to think about. But like,
I agree.
He's so satisfied with his life and who he is that it just kills people who are not happy with their life or their situation or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like his being happy almost ran AB out of town. Like Juju is just like so happy, and AB's like, "Are you kidding me? Like this isn't supposed to be like we're not supposed to enjoy this all the time." And AB just had enough of it and wanted out.
Yeah, he's really killed his reputation over the last couple of years because I think that people are going to hear that soundbite and they're just going to be like, "Oh yeah, of course Juju's going to be better," but really, I don't like. It's not supposed to be close. Like AB is supposed to be the guy. Juju's supposed to be like a very good receiver that's coming into his own. But
he's with the Raiders, dude. Derek Carr is just
he's extremely boring and sucks and not good for Hard Knocks and not a very good quarterback.
That's not. Don't even bring that up.
All right then. So I think that about wraps up the show for this week. Any final thoughts that you want to slip in here before we call it quits?
No. I don't have anything else.
I don't either.
I wanted to have something else, and then the last time I did, I told everybody to bet Koepka, and then he lost. So
yeah. We're 0-1 as a gambling podcast. We'll have to figure that out as when it's before Minnesota legalizes gambling,
which might be like several years at this point. So we have some time.
Jesus Christ, yeah. I mean, the last thing I'm going to say is just one more for Andrew Luck. I'm going to miss watching him play. I'm going to miss all the jokes about him thanking players when they sack him and like saying like nice job and like just being
and the
weird.
Captain Andrew Luck Twitter account too.
Yeah, to rip to that. I always wonder how that kind of thing goes. Like like the fake Bo Pelini Twitter account. Like when he got fired by Nebraska. Like he's still around. That's interesting. But yeah, that's just weird, man. It's gonna be odd and. They do have a solid backup in Jacoby Brissett. Like it's not the worst situation in the world, but I suppose we'll see how this pans out. But best of luck to Andrew Luck. I'm pissed off at everyone that has something negative to say about him choosing for his own life to retire. You guys all suck.
Plus, he's probably scared for his life because O.J. Simpson's mad at him.
O.J.'s mad at him? I didn't see that.
O.J.'s Twitter.
No. Hey, Twitter world.
He tweeted a video of him like basically chewing out Luck because he had just drafted him in fantasy or something, and he's like, "You really couldn't have done this like an hour and a half ago."
God, that's a good reason to be afraid. and for O.J. Simpson, for sure, don't get mad and go on Twitter like you're just asking for it. That's
the replies to all his tweets are always great because people are just like,
he needs to leave. He needs to be gone. Well,
yeah.
And I think we need to be gone too. So that's the end of the show. You can find us on social media, unbelievable_MN. Tweet us your thoughts, your jokes. If you have a idea for a Thursday question, we're open to that. Any commentary that you may have about the show, feel free to reach out, and we'll respond to that and have some
Oh,
fun
I have
with
another
it.
comment. Watch Ballers
Ballers? Why?
on HBO. It's a
Ah.
good show. It's back this week.
Okay. You don't need to watch Ballers. It's a very average show.
All right. Wow. When you ask for comment at the end of the show again, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I screen the comments here, and I get to have my own opinion on them as well. So, Ballers trash. This show though, unbelievable, great show. Keep listening to this. We'll be back later on this week with more commentary about Minnesota sports. So, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you later on this week.